What is going on, guys? Money Webby here, back again. Week 10 of my favorite DFS picks of the week. Nice 11-game slate we got here. I got a few plays at every position that I'm extremely high on. Think they can return a lot of value at their current salary. So before we get going, be sure to slap a like in the video. Let's see if we can get over 200 likes in this one. That'd be greatly appreciated if we can hit that. And let's kick it off with some quarterbacks. We got first up here, Matty Ice going against the Cleveland Browns. He's currently salaried at the fourth quarterback on the slate, but he's been playing extremely well this year. 6 out of his last 7 games, he's gotten over 20 DK points. And against this Browns secondary, they've been kind of faltering a little bit on defense recently. They've allowed over 350 passing yards 2 out of the last 3 games to Jameis Winston and then Patrick Mahomes last week. So I think Matt Ryan can definitely slice and dice them a little bit. They have really good weapons on the outside, obviously, with Julio Jones, Sanu, and Calvin Ridley. So if the Browns can kind of keep this game close, I think Matt Ryan can throw for a lot of yards, get a few touchdowns again here, and get us over 20 to 25 DraftKings points yet again. The game is currently implied 51 points, which is the second highest over-under on the slate. So I think Matt Ryan is definitely a great option at 6,200 here if you want to pay up at quarterback. And if you want to save, there's some really good cheap guys on this slate. I'm going to go back to Russell Wilson. Like I mentioned a few times over the last few weeks, his rushing ability is starting to pick back up. He had 5 rushes last week against the Chargers and then 6 going against Oakland there in that game. So that added rushing ability is adding back to his floor and his upside. He's gotten over 20 DraftKings points the last 3 games. And going against the Rams here, I think this game could turn into a bad kind of game for the Seahawks, meaning that they're going to be down a few points. I would guess the Rams coming off a loss will probably be a little bit angry about that. And the Seahawks are currently 10-point underdogs. So that means it's going to be a positive game script for a guy like Russell Wilson, leading to some more passes. And last week, he's coming off a game where he got 39 pass attempts, which is his most by far on the year. His only game where he's got over 30 was all the way back in week 2, where he got 36 and then 33 week 1. So they're finally starting to open up the offense a little bit. And if the game script goes like Vegas isn't expecting it to, where they're down by 10 points, they're going to have to pass the ball a little bit more here. And the Rams secondary has looked really bad. So with added rushing ability for Russell Wilson, also we got Chris Carson banged up with an injury. And if he's out, they'll probably have to pass the ball more a little bit again here. So a really good spot. He had 19 DraftKings points on just 21 attempts when he faced off against them week 5. And the game script wasn't that bad. Like they were up or even like within 7 points or so the whole entire game. So this could go a little bit more towards Russell Wilson's upside at a nice price tag at 5,700. So that's a really good play as my second quarterback, and all the way down bottom of the bare minimum salary almost. For like a starting quarterback, I think he's tied for like the lowest salary. I'm gonna go with Marcus Mariota. Actually, no, there's a couple guys. I don't think none of these guys are starting though. So Marcus Mariota is pretty much the lowest salary except Brock Osweiler, who's at 4,600. And this is a really good spot based on what Mariota does well. He's a really good rushing quarterback. He had 32 yards last week, 78 against the Chargers. He's finally starting to use his legs. And that's really what gives him that upside as a fantasy quarterback. So at 4,700, he obviously doesn't need to do that much to return value on his salary, and this could easily be a positive game script for the Titans. Like the Patriots have a good chance of getting up here in this game, meaning some more passing for a guy like Mariota. And the Patriots, they've struggled against rushing quarterbacks. They've allowed the 3rd most rushing yards to quarterbacks in a few weeks. Just looking at Deshaun Watson, he ran for 40 yards. Blake Bortles, he ran for 35 yards. And then Mitch Trubisky, he ran for 81 yards. So some rushing quarterbacks can definitely get some yardage on them. And that kind of, it's like an added touchdown almost with 40 rushing yards. That's pretty much like a 3rd touchdown if he's able to throw for 2 touchdowns. And he had a really solid game against the Patriots in a similar game script where he's like down by a lot and he could be coming from behind. In this one, he had 250 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and he had 37 rushing yards. And that was also in Gillette in a hostile environment. So now being in Tennessee, he's coming off a really solid performance against the Cowboys. It could be, he looks like he's trending up a little bit. And this is a really good spot for him as a rushing quarterback. So that's going to be my final guy at 4,700. So some really good salary relief with Mariota and Russell Wilson. And then if you want to pay up, you can go up to Matt Ryan, who's been absolutely killing it this year pretty quietly. I feel like no one's really talking about him this year as well as he's been playing. And now for running back, we're going to be paying up for a guy like Melvin Gordon. It just makes way too much sense. There's not much to it. He's been absolutely a stud this year. Every single game, he's extremely safe. He's getting over 20 DraftKings points every single game except that one game against the Rams, where he got 16. But still, I think he can easily find himself over 25 DraftKings points. He didn't even play that well against the Raiders in that first matchup. He only had 3.1 yards per carry, and he still got 22 DraftKings points. I think he's going to be able to be more productive rushing the ball here. Oakland's defense is absolutely like ripped apart as they're kind of tanking. They want that first pick. So I think Melvin Gordon could rush over 100 yards in this game, be able to get a 1+ touchdowns, like could easily get 2. He's going to be getting a lot of scoring opportunities against this bad defense, and a lot of touches, I'm guessing, with them probably being up the whole entire game, just rushing and kind of winding out the clock in the second half. So that's my first guy, 9,000. He could easily get 2 or 3 touchdowns and have a huge game against that bad defense. And for my second guy, David Johnson. He's been extremely annoying to own as like a season-long player, just in DFS, I guess, because he hasn't really been that good the whole entire year. But his salary isn't that bad at $6,800, and considering how they used them last week, it wasn't a great matchup, I guess. It was kind of back and forth where they didn't get behind enough where David Johnson could be able to get like a ton of receptions. But in this game going against Kansas City, I can see them easily getting down here 14+ points, meaning David Johnson will be used finally primarily as a receiver, which is great for PPR scoring, which is DraftKings. So I think David Johnson could honestly get like over 5, maybe even 6 catches in this game. And we saw Duke Johnson absolutely kill it in a similar kind of role where the Browns are working from behind, and he got 9 catches for 78 yards. So David Johnson could have a similar game to that. And also, he's going to be able to get a little bit more rushing ability, I think, here. Going against Kansas City, they do struggle a lot with their rushing defense, and Byron Leftwich is just kind of opening up the offense a little bit more for David Johnson. He ran his most routes of the year last game in Week 8 against San Fran. He had his most routes run. So everything's kind of trending up for him. A really good matchup. The Chiefs allowing the most fantasy points to running backs this year. So at 6,800, a nice value for a guy that could easily go over 20 DraftKings points. So that's my second running back. And for my third guy, Duke Johnson, I just mentioned him. And they could have another similar game going against Atlanta, the team that's allowing the most receptions to running backs. So Duke Johnson, finally using him as a receiver, which he's pretty much supposed to be used as. The Browns, for whatever reason, with Hugh Jackson, were like afraid to do that with them earlier in the year. He was barely involved. But with the Hugh out of the picture, it seems like they finally want to utilize him as a receiver. Their wide receivers in general, like besides Jarvis Landry, are really struggling to get separation and get open. So Duke Johnson, they're going to be using him a lot in the short passing game. Pretty much like James White is being used with the Patriots, I would imagine here. And it's really the perfect matchup for him to do so going against the Falcons, like I said, who is allowing the most receptions to running back. So at 4,700, really good value there for Duke. I think it'll be pretty chalky, but for good reason. And now for a revenge narrative, Dion Lewis going against his old team. He actually looked extremely good against the Cowboys last game, and even against the Chargers. They're finally utilizing him as like the receiving and just dynamic player he can be when he gets in open space. So they're doing a lot of screens with him and stuff like that. And against the Patriots here, like I mentioned with Mariota, I could see them easily getting down in this game, meaning Dion Lewis could be like honestly the number 1 wide receiver in this game for the Tennessee Titans. They got Corey Davis on the outside, who could easily be limited by Stephon Gilmore, who's playing out of his mind this year. He's been limiting a lot of top wide receivers, so that means a few more catches could go to Dion Lewis. The Patriots, another team here that have been allowing a good amount of receptions to running backs, and they do struggle against these like quicker, shifty kind of backs, like we saw with Tyreek Cohen and some of these other guys that have done really well against them, Kareem Hunt and stuff like that. So Dion Lewis, he'll be running angry here. He's actually already broken like the most tackles per run, I believe, or something like that. He's been breaking a ton of tackles this year. He could break some more. The Patriots aren't the best team in the league at wrapping up running back. So Dion Lewis, 4,600. I think he's in a really good spot. Angry, and he's going to get it done here in that game. So that's my final running back. So you got Dion Lewis, Duke Johnson, David Johnson, and Melvin Gordon, all good options and some good salary guys, especially at the bottom with Duke and Dion. And now for my top wide receiver. think Tyreek Hill, honestly, is in a great spot here. With Sammy Watkins banged up, he missed practice on Wednesday and Thursday, so I would imagine he would be out for this game, or if he does play, he's probably going to be less than 100%. So Tyreek Hill, he gets a boost there in that situation where he's probably going to be seeing a few more targets. Maybe he's not as effective with them, but still, like, he had his most targets of the year when Sammy Watkins was out of this game. He was 9 for 54, not as effective, but that Denver secondary is more capable of shutting down a guy like Tyreek Hill compared to Arizona, who have really struggled against wide receivers, especially when they line up on the opposite side of Patrick Peterson. So if they put Tyreek Hill to the left and they just send him deep, I think he can honestly catch like an 80-yard bomb here in this game. So at 7,300, he just needs like one play to return value, honestly. Like I said, one 80-yard catch, and then they'll probably design some like kind of screen stuff and some rushes and stuff like that. So he's gonna be able to eat, I think, in this matchup. And also another thing that's working in his favor is that the Chiefs, they blitz the most out of any team in football, and when the Chiefs get blitzed against, when Mahomes sees a blitz, he normally just tries to take a deep shot to Tyreek Hill. That's the top guy that he's been targeting on blitzes. So really good spot for Tyreek Hill. Like I said, I think he has a great shot of finally catching like a 70-yard touchdown, which he hasn't done for a few weeks. He seems due, and 7,300 is definitely a solid salary. So that's my first guy. For my second guy, right next to him, Tyler Boyd, in a tremendous spot here. With AJ Green gone, it could take away some of his effectiveness, but I think that will be kind of counterbalanced by the fact he'll be seeing probably 10-plus targets in a really prime matchup, going against the Saints, going against P.J. Williams, who's been their worst cover corner out of anyone. So in the slot here, I don't imagine Lattimore will follow him into the slot. Lattimore will probably be matched up with like John Ross or someone like that and limit him, and then Tyler Boyd will still be able to eat in the slot and have a really good game. And he's been great for PPR this year in prime matchups like we saw against Tampa Bay. Was able to go for 31 in a prime spot against Pittsburgh. Was able to go for 25 against Atlanta. Great spot, 24. And just some other games where he's been able to really reach good upside. So at 7,500, the top target for Dalton by far in the receiving course. So that's a really good spot for him. And against the Saints, I could see them easily getting down in that game, meaning some positive game scripts for Tyler Boyd. And for my third guy, this guy's going to be extremely chalky, but Josh Gordon. He looked extremely good last week. He won 5 for 130 and a touchdown, and he's going to be going against Malcolm Butler, the guy that was the talk of the Super Bowl last year. Not everyone wasn't sure why Bill Belichick benched him, but it seems like we're starting to figure out why the guy was benched. He's been absolutely exposed this year. He's been allowing the most yards out of any cornerback and the most touchdowns out of any cornerback, like over 600 yards and 7 touchdowns. So Josh Gordon, he primarily matches up with Malcolm Butler based on where he's lining up. He's been lining up as the left wide receiver, and that's where Malcolm Butler stays. So I would imagine that would happen again here. I could see Josh Gordon beating him a few times, and even if Butler does get benched, I would imagine the backup guy coming in for Butler is not very good either. So I think Josh Gordon is in line for a really good game here at 6,000. Rob Gronkowski has been kind of working under 100% this year, and he could easily be out again this game. So that means some more possible targets for Josh Gordon again here. He had 10 targets last week, and 2 out of the last 3 games he's looked extremely good against some not like bad defenses by any means in Green Bay and Chicago. Against Buffalo, Tre'Davious White is a really good outside cornerback, so he did struggle a little bit in that game, but he did also draw like a pass interference that was like 40 yards or something like that. So at 6,000, it seems like he's trending up. He's running a lot of routes, so a really good play there. So I'm pretty much paying up for wide receiver, and then at running back, I'm paying up for Melvin Gordon, then going a little bit more value, I guess, with David Johnson and those other cheap guys like I mentioned with Duke and Dion Lewis. And for my other wide receiver, Maurice Harris is there in a really good spot here at 3,900. It could be limited a little bit with Jamison Crowder being back at practice today on Thursday, but it's still a good shot where he can miss this game. And Maurice Harris is coming off an extremely good game going against the Atlanta Falcons. He went 10 for 124, and after that game, it seems like everyone in the Redskins think this guy's like the next Antonio Brown. They keep on raving about him, saying he has tremendous hands, like tremendous everything. So I guess the Redskins are really trying to blow up his head, make himself feel good, and he's entering a really good matchup going against Tampa Bay, a team that struggles a lot against slot wide receivers. MJ Stewart was one of the worst cornerbacks this year. He's normally in the slot, but he actually missed last week, And the guy that stepped in his place is Javian Elliott, who was promoted from the practice squad. I'm guessing he's not too good. He didn't really get exposed that much last week because the Panthers really didn't target him that much, and the Panthers weren't really in pass mode as they were pretty much leading the whole entire game. But in this matchup, where the Redskins' offensive line is really beaten up, could definitely limit the run game, and some intermediate stuff with a guy in the slot like Maurice Harris could be definitely on the cards here in this matchup, going against a guy that's on the practice squad most likely, with MJ Stewart probably out again here, but definitely monitor to see if Jamison Crowder is back here, because that would probably put Maurice Harris on the outside with Jamison Crowder back in the slot. So at 3,900, definitely got to keep your eye on if you want a nice value piece at wide receiver. So that's my final guy. And now for tight end, Travis Kelce is definitely in a good spot as well here with Sammy Watkins looking like he's going to be out. That means some more targets again here for a guy like Travis Kelce alongside Tyreek Hill. In the game that Sammy Watkins was out, like I mentioned, he actually had his most targets of the year with 12 in that game. So everyone's going to see some more looks against Arizona. Their safety play isn't great. They have been pretty good against tight ends, so that's pretty much because Arizona has been being killed every single game where there's no reason to really pass on them. But the Kansas City Chiefs, they just love to pass. There's nothing that's going to slow them down. Even if they're up 40 points, Mahomes would probably be still chucking it down the field. So at 7,000, he can definitely find the end zone, get over 5 catches again here in this game. He's been extremely productive and just consistent this year. And when he finds the end zone, he gets around 20 plus DraftKings points. So a really good spot at 7,000 there with Sammy Watkins kind of working himself out of the picture if he is out, adding some more upside for Kelce and Tyreek Hill, like I mentioned. And for my second tight end, Jimmy Graham here going against the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins have struggled a good amount the last few weeks with covering tight ends in the red zone. They've actually been targeted the most out of any defense by tight ends in the red zone. So for a guy like Jimmy Graham, that's pretty much his primary role on this Packers offense, is being just a big body in the red zone, going up and get the ball. I think he can get another touchdown here in this game. He looked pretty solid against the Patriots last week, and going against the Miami Dolphins, the Packers offense was kind of limited against the Patriots. I think they could take out some anger in this game, and Rodgers could have a huge game, and Jimmy Graham could go for 50 yards and a touchdown or two. So at 4,600, he's a really good option, really good upside, and has showed off pretty well in the last few games with double digits in the last 4 out of 5 games. So another good spot for him, I believe, there is my second tight end. For my final guy, we're going to go a touchdown upside again here. Eric Ebron. He had a disappointing game last week, or last time he was out going against the Raiders, but he still dropped 12 DraftKings points. I mean, the guy only ran around 10 routes in that game. It's a really bad game script. They were kind of up the whole entire second half, running the ball well with Marlon Mack. But in this game, going against Jacksonville, I mean, they got to play well eventually. I think this could be the game where Jacksonville finally moves the ball offensively, and maybe the Colts kind of have to come from behind. And the Jacksonville run defense is a lot better compared to Oakland. So the Colts are probably going to have to pass the ball a little bit more here in this game. And also with a guy like T.Y. Hilton, he could be definitely limited by Jalen Ramsey, opening some things up for Eric Ebron. And I'm imagining Ebron runs some more routes here in this game, as it will be kind of a closer game here. And with the matchups on the outside, with Hilton kind of struggling possibly on Jalen Ramsey, they're going to have to look somewhere else. And Eric Ebron is kind of the ace in the deck where they have a matchup kind of advantage, I would imagine, here going against Jacksonville. And he's looked pretty damn solid over the last few games. I mean, he's gotten a touchdown almost every single game this year. And even when Jack Doyle was in the lineup the first couple games, he was still able to get a few catches and touchdowns. He's pretty much the number 1 red zone target, so I think he can do it again here at a really good salary at 3,500 with that touchdown upside. No one really has that touchdown ability here below 4,000. So that's my final tight end, Kelce, Ebron, and Jimmy Graham. And for my defenses, the Jets defense can't ask for a better matchup going against Buffalo. And Nathan Peterman, the walking turnover, the guy just wakes up and he's like, you know what, I'm going to throw 4 picks today. Or he'll wake up and be like, you know what, why don't I go for 5 picks? The guy just tries to outdo himself every single week. It's great to see. Great for the Jets. I think they can get a few sacks here, definitely a few picks, and possibly get a touchdown. So at 3,400, not much to it. They'll be at home hostile environment for the worst offense in football. And for my second one, the Packers defense, going against Brock Osweiler again here. He's a guy that can be sacked a lot. Packers defense is underrated. I think they have a really solid secondary, and their pass rush has been pretty good here in a few games. Going against the Rams, he got 5 sacks, which was really impressive to me. The Rams have probably the best offensive line in football right now, so that was really impressive, and I think the Packers can get it going here. Similar to like that Buffalo game, they got 23 DraftKings points against really bad offensive lines like Minnesota as well. They've been able to tee off, get some turnovers and stuff like that. So this is another game here where I think they can get double-digit DraftKings points. And for my final one, a really solid value here, the Saints defense. I mean, the Bengals are going to be pretty popular with Tyler Boyd and stuff like that, maybe Andy Dalton. But with how much A.J. Green does in this offense, I think that's going to limit the Bengals' ability on offense, and that could make Andy Dalton try to force some balls, try to squeeze them into tight windows, and that means they could pick him off once or twice. And also, the Bengals offensive line is not great by any means. The Saints pass rush is pretty solid. They got some good guys on the outside, Cameron Jordan, stuff like that. At 2,200, they really don't need to do much to return value. They did struggle against an extremely good offense in the Rams, but going against the Bengals with Tyler Boyd as their top wide receiver, I mean, I think Tyler Boyd is going to do great, but I still think the Saints could return value at 2,200. I mean, they got a nice bounce back game here. The last time they came off a negative point total, they did pretty well against Cleveland, getting 6 DraftKings points. I mean, even if they get you like 8, 6 DraftKings points, it's still like you're getting a ton of salary relief there at 2,200. So not much to it. Solid matchup, and that's my final defense and final play of the week. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you can slap a like on it. Like I said, over 200 likes would be greatly appreciated. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely do that to continue to get this NFL advice and just information for every single DraftKings slate and DFS slate and stuff like that. You can comment any questions down below. I like to hear the feedback and anything that you might be thinking with plays, and bounce off some ideas on me and stuff like that. And also, you can follow me on Twitter at MoneyWebby for any updated takes I might have on Twitter and stuff like that, if anything changes with the injury reports and all that good stuff. So good luck, and we'll see you back here again next time.